Hi, eBay sellers. It's Suzanne A. Wells, and welcome back to another episode of eBay the Right Way. This is episode 15. The date is June 30th, 2021. This is a podcast for the smaller at-home eBay seller. This episode includes ramblings, observations, and commentary about the wonderful world of eBay and the reseller lifestyle. And I'm a day late because I took a little trip and put my businesses on hold to go do something fun. Very spontaneous. This was not planned. So in light of that, my commitment to you is now a new podcast every week. I mean, does it really matter what day it's on? I like to be consistent so you'll know what to expect. And I was shooting for every Tuesday, but life happens and we got to be flexible. So better late than never, right? So what happened? I got an invitation from my friend who lives in Greenville, South Carolina, to come up for the weekend and join them for their 4th of July celebration, which was being held a week in advance. So I thought, sure, why not? I'm never going to decline an invitation from my best friend from high school and life to hang out and have fun. So I think we came up with this plan on Wednesday, so that gave me all day Wednesday and Thursday to get everything done for the week and get packed up and hit the road Friday, which I thought I was never going to get out of here on Friday. You know how that is, getting everything wrapped up and ready, and things just kept selling from my eBay store. So I do have 2-day handling, 2 business day handling. So I wanted to ship out everything that had sold before I left so that whatever sold over the weekend, I wouldn't have to ship until Tuesday. So I don't think I got out of here till 2 o'clock in the afternoon, which my goal was like 10 o'clock in the morning to hit the road, but that's life. And I'm certainly not going to complain about having a whole bunch of sales because I'm very thankful for that. And I just wanted everything to be on its way to buyers and not have to think about everything sitting there waiting for me to be shipped when I got back. So, hit the road, arrived in Greenville late afternoon, and her family was busy doing different things in different directions. So we decided to go out to dinner, which I always enjoy going out to restaurants. We went to Yard House and had some interesting food. We had, I think it was called Korean barbecue beef with rice. It was an appetizer. And then some Asian, Mexican fusion ahi tuna nachos that were very interesting. So that was fun. And then we went back to her house and watched the gymnastics Olympic trials because we are retired gymnasts. So we really enjoy watching that and reminiscing about the old days of being gymnasts in the 1980s and how everything has changed. But one observation was that the girls are so much older than normal. In past years, they were 15, 16 years old, very young, and their career was over by the age of 18. But this time around, I mean, Simone Biles is 24. There's another girl I can't remember who went to college and competed, and she's 24. And so that's really interesting to see the shift of the age of the gymnasts. Like, no, your career is not over when you're 18. And I wonder if it has to do with their maturity and, more mental maturity in the sport, because it's a very demanding sport. There's a lot of pressure and a lot of politics in that sport. So it will be very interesting to see how that unfolds when the Olympics are on next month. So that was really fun. Then Saturday, they were getting ready for the 4th of July festivities and making homemade ice cream, which was so delicious. And that was just fun watching them do all of that. And then we packed up the car and headed for Cleveland, South Carolina, where the celebration was being held. That's their summer place that's been in their family for almost 100 years. They said this place, this community is 98 years old. So very established community, a lot of tradition, and it was so fun to see her extended family. I think there were 20 adults, 20 people and 2 babies. So I hadn't seen some of her nieces and nephews in probably 20 years. So it was just great to catch up with everyone. Such a nice, polite family. They were just so fun to be around. So that was great. And did the whole 4th of July celebration with barbecue, homemade ice cream, fireworks, visiting with everybody. So I was chatting with a young person, just turned 18, and very polite conversation. He's like, "So what do you do for a living? What's your job?" And of course, we go into the whole eBay conversation. And now, granted, this house we're in, I don't know how old it was. I don't think it was 100 years old, but it's pretty old. So there are a lot of what I call artifacts in this house. And so, of course, as an eBay seller, you're always observing things because that's just what we do. We spend hours and hours in thrift stores looking for those treasures, or at estate sales or garage sales or wherever you go treasure hunting, and you can't turn it off. I mean, it's like being a dermatologist and, you meet a new person and then you're like, "Oh, hey, I noticed that thing on your leg. You might want to get that checked out." I mean, it's your career. It's your profession. You can't turn it off. You're always looking. You may not say anything, but you're always observing. So anyway, this nice young man asked me what I did for my job, and I explained it, and he says, "Oh, I bet you could find some stuff around here." And I said, "Of course." I said, "Yeah, like that thing right there." And in the middle of the kitchen table was, I think, a Lazy Susan with a bunch of stuff on it. And one thing was this little Weeble, like the little toy Weebles wobble, but they don't fall down. I mean, I just recognized it immediately because, well, for one thing, I had those as a kid. And so he picks it up and he turns it over and he's like, "Yeah, it says 1974 Weeble and whatever company made it." And I said, "Yeah, I bet that would sell for about $30. So there was no internet up there. You couldn't look up anything on your phone because this was pretty rural. But later I checked it out and I was right. Anyway, I was observing things all over the house, things in the kitchen, items hung on the wall, board games and puzzles. There was just collectible stuff everywhere. And it was just really hard not to say anything. But that's just how our trained eye works. When we go places, go to a friend's home for the first time, go to a new place, and you just automatically start looking around because that's what we do. So that was really interesting. Okay, then we packed up and went to their place at Lake Kiowee to spend the night because there was a huge crowd at the mountain house, and so we just went on down the road to Lake Kiowee and spent the night. And then the next morning we went to a super cute little breakfast restaurant, just a little house that had been converted to a restaurant out in the middle of nowhere, and had a delicious breakfast of, I had eggs Benedict and cheese grits, and it was just so delicious. I might talk about food too much in these podcasts, but food is just one of the best parts of being human. There's just so much to experience, and it's so delicious. And just, I guess I'm a sensory person. I just enjoy that. So anyway, we went back to the Lake Kiowee house, and it's about to be put on the market. So I helped them pack up some things and sort through some things, and once again found some treasures that my friend is going to think about selling, or what does she want to do with them. So that was another treasure hunt and a good use of my skills to help them sort through items, figure out what to pack up, what to keep. And we worked on that for a few hours, and then headed back to Greenville, where I was invited to stay one more night and hang out and watch more Olympic trials. My friend's husband made pizza on the green egg grill thing, where he just has that perfected. I mean, they have a system. I just love that pizza on the green egg. It was so delicious. They made like a buffalo chicken one with blue cheese, and then chicken with spinach. I think it had a white sauce, and then a 4-cheese one, and just all of them were delicious. So we watched the Olympics the Olympic trials. And then the next morning, I helped my friend get some things listed on eBay because she's new. She hasn't even been doing this a year yet. She's doing very well, but I felt like, hey, I can do that really fast for you. That's something I can contribute because you have fed me so well over the last few days. And we just had a good time hanging out. So that's one thing I can contribute, is my quick listing skills. So got that done. And then on the way home, I stopped at a produce stand and got some delicious South Carolina peaches, homegrown tomatoes, some fresh strawberries. And that was just such a treat, because even though I live in the peach state of Georgia, the ones from South Carolina are just better. So I always try to pick those up if I am there during peach season. And then I intentionally went home a different way because I wanted to stop at a Goodwill that I'd never been to that was kind of on the way. I mean, I was in no hurry to get home. I don't get in a hurry anymore, because being in a hurry just stresses you out. So I just take my time, and when I get home, I get home. So I'm really glad I stopped at that Goodwill, because I found some great stuff. I found some plush that sells for between $50 and $70 a piece. I found a gorgeous Johnny Was embroidered dress. I found a really nice thick Neiman Marcus cashmere cardigan sweater. I found some Longaberger coffee mugs. And I didn't even know Longaberger, as in baskets, made ceramic or pottery stuff. So that was a new one. Anyway, I found a bunch of really good stuff. So it was worth the stop. So I finally made it home Monday night at about 7:30. And of course, all I wanted to do was take a shower and unwind. And I had 28 things to ship. So I had an excellent weekend on eBay, and sold some books. So some of those 28 things were BOLO books. So that's pretty much what I did most of Tuesday, was answer emails and get caught up on my shipping. So after all of that was done, I couldn't really talk. I couldn't string a sentence together. I was so tired. So I thought, you know what? This podcast is going to have to wait till Wednesday. So here we are, and that's the backstory of why it's late. But again, I always stress this is why we do eBay, so that we can take time off. We can be spontaneous. You can put everything on hold and go live your life and enjoy it. And you don't have to be glued to your computer. You know, you're not working for the man where you have to be somewhere at a certain time. This is why I do this business. So I hope you'll give me a pass on this one. And also, since it's summer, things are kind of more laid back and, you know, not as scheduled. So there we are. So we are going to move on to some YouTube comments that I wanted to reply to here, because it's just a little convoluted and long to answer some of these things on the YouTube comments. So in my previous sales update, in my previous $100 supersize sales video, I mentioned someone's sale of dentures, like real human dentures, that they sold for a great price. And there was a comment under that says, it's against the rules to sell dentures. This person tried to sell some and the sale got pulled. So I did look into that and check the eBay policy. And so my response to this person was, this appears to be one of those borderline items. If the item is sold for its vintage and or collectible properties, that is different than selling it for actual human use. The eBay prohibited list does not specifically mention dentures. There are currently 400 active listings for dentures and over 200 sold in the last 90 days. And then I linked to the eBay policy for health and medical items, which states, medical devices that require a prescription can't be sold on eBay. Listings for other medical devices must follow our policy. It's important to check that items can be sold on eBay before they are listed. What is the policy? Any medical device that requires a prescription cannot be sold on eBay, including CPAP machines, electrical muscle stimulation units, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulators, oxygen concentrators, compressors or conservers, nebulizers and their accessories, pulse oximeters that require a prescription, implantable devices such as pacemakers, heart valves, vascular grafts, ventricular bypass devices, and implantable infusion pumps. Needles with or without a disposable syringe and items that have passed their expiration are also prohibited. There are restrictions on the sale of the following items. Listings must state in the item description if the device has been opened or used. The item descriptions should clearly state the product expiration date. Some medical devices can only be sold with government authorization. Listing for these must follow the rules below. And the main thing there is the items must be listed in business and industrial, healthcare, lab, and dental category. So there's a lot more verbiage here, but it does not specifically mention dentures. it does say that the following items can be sold: over-the-counter medical devices, vintage or collectible medical devices, but listings must state that these are not intended for use. New disposable syringes can be listed, but needles cannot be included. So my feeling is that if a listing for dentures has been pulled, it's because maybe it wasn't listed in the collectibles category, or the description did not state that the item was not intended for human use. A lot of vintage items, you'll see in the description, they're only being sold for their vintage or collectible status, not intended for use for decoration, home decor, or just a collectible. So that might be what happened if you had a listing for dentures that was pulled, because they're obviously allowed if there's so many of them for sale and so many that have sold over the last 90 days. So that is my take on this conversation about selling dentures being against the rules on eBay. Well, obviously it's not. You just have to do it correctly and say the right things and put it in the right category. Okay, moving on to something new I learned this week. In addition to everything I saw in person at my friends' different homes that I visited, when I was out thrifting, I came across some Paula Deen cookware. And it was in really good condition. And I was under the impression that her line of cookware was just not really worth much, but that is incorrect. Some can be profitable depending on the condition, the color, and how many items are in the set. And I don't know if y'all remember Paula Deen and her cooking show. We watched that quite a bit in the early 2000s when she first came on the Food Network, because she was just so hilarious to watch. And she really plays on that Southern drawl accent. Y'all, we got to put more butter in this cake. I just love butter. And all the jokes about Paula Deen and butter. But I will have to say, my favorite episode of Cooking with Paula, or whatever it was called, she was making gingerbread people for a Christmas episode. And she was making them to look like people in her life. So she made one to look like her husband, Michael. Y'all, I'm just gonna make this look like Michael, and I'm gonna put a beard on him, and I'm gonna put a bow tie on him. Y'all, it just looks like Michael. So she makes the cookies and bakes them and decorates them and everything. And then she picks up the one that looks like Michael and says, y'all, I just love this cookie of Michael, and I'm just gonna eat his head. And she just bites his head off and just eats it. So, yeah, she's quite entertaining. But the moral of that story is Paula Deen, cookware, kitchen gadgets, all of that, they can be worth some money. Just depends on the condition and the color. So don't pass those by if you are checking out the cookware at thrift stores, garage sales, and estate sales. Okay, now we're going to move on to what happened in my eBay store this week. And I'm not going to tell you too much because my next project is my sales update video for June that will be going up on YouTube in a few days. So you can see the items as well as hear the riveting commentary. But I sold the most crazy mix of things. Like, my sales just took off. Stuff that's been sitting there for months or even over a year started selling. So I don't know what's going on, but I'm really happy about it. So one very cool thing I sold was a lot of 14 porcelain drawer pulls, like cabinet handles. I got those at a thrift store for $1.25, and they sold for full asking price of $59.97 plus shipping. And I was kind of surprised they sold for that much, but they were beautiful. They weren't antique or anything like that, but those porcelain cabinet pulls and drawer pulls and knobs, they're not cheap. So my feeling is that contractors who would use these in remodeling or restoring homes would just have a collection, and maybe they're just constantly adding to their collection so that they have what they need when the job comes along. I sold some wallpaper border. I bought this last summer for 50 cents a roll at a very rural, off the beaten path thrift store, and I sold 2 rolls of it for $10 each. So that was a really easy item to ship. And I have sold wallpaper and wallpaper border over the years, and it just takes a while for the right person to need it. So it doesn't take up any room. Really, the wallpaper border is so small, and it's not going to expire. So just remember that vintage items are only going to get more vintage as time goes by. Discontinued patterns of things like linens, wallpaper, anything like that for the home eventually will be needed. So you just have to be patient on those items. I sold a Eddie Bauer quilted puffy vest. So here we are in June, and I sold that for $30. Let me see what else I sold here. Several bras. That is a steady seller for me. I usually sell one every day, it seems like, but that's a very easy item to sell because there's so many different sizes and colors and styles and brands, and that's just a great item to keep in your inventory because eventually somebody's going to need it. Somebody of that size is going to need it, and they don't take up much room, and they're really lightweight to ship. My BOLO book is also available in my eBay store, so I'm selling those there as well as on my website. So that is a unique and repeatable item that I just added to my eBay store. I sold bathing suits. I sold plush. I sold a plush that had an interior electronic component that did not work. And I sold it as non-working for $25, and it cost me $1. So what's funny is the purchaser of that item, their eBay name is called Lost Millennials. So what I think is happening with some of these plush and stuffed animals and toys, and really anything from the millennial people's childhood, is, now they're becoming collectible. These people are adults, and they are feeling nostalgic about things they had as children. So they're going to eBay to buy them. And I'm 100% sure this Lost Millennials is probably going to resell this item somewhere else, probably for more, but that's okay. I mean, it cost me $1 and I sold it for $25 in about 2 weeks. So I'm perfectly fine with that. I sold some cashmere sweaters. I sold a Kavu rope bag, and then other clothing. it's just like everything started selling and I just kept shipping it and I was perfectly happy with that. So if your sales are slow and you're not seeing the results you want, one place I can point you to is in my premium library. I have an aggressive 8-point plan for breaking a sales slump. And if you have not worked through that plan, I strongly suggest you do that, because there are some pretty creative things that you could do to get your sales moving again. And you may not know you can do these things. You may have never thought of this. So you can check that out in the premium library and give that a try. Do the things for 30 days and see what results you get. It won't hurt to try. And these are aggressive steps to get your sales moving. And now we're going to move on to the vocabulary builder. The word this week is harlequin. And that is spelled Harlequin. And the inspiration for this vocabulary word is I was doing some research on eBay and saw people calling harlequin pattern a checkerboard pattern. And that is not correct. And I don't mean to be an overbearing, picky, attention to detail person, but if you're not using the correct words that your buyer would use, they're not going to find your listing. So if you have a harlequin patterned tablecloth and you're calling it checkerboard, the people who know it's harlequin and call it harlequin and are going to search for harlequin are not going to see your listing because you didn't call it that. So, okay, what is harlequin? In early Italian and later in French comedy, the buffoon or clown, one of the regular character types. He was noted for his gluttonous buffoonery, afterward modified by something of intriguing malice. On the modern stage, he generally appears in pantomime as the lover of Columbine, masked and dressed in tight, party-colored clothes covered with spangles, armed with a magic wand or wooden sword, and plays amusing tricks on the other performers. So, harlequin is a character. It's often confused with a court jester, but harlequin is actually a character in Italian and French comedy. And what he wears is a pattern of diamond-shaped figures of different colors. So that's what we're referring to as a key word in your listings is the harlequin pattern. It's elongated diamond shapes that are usually brightly colored and multicolored. So it is not a square checkerboard. It's a very different pattern. So you might see this on pillows and tablecloths and picture frames and clothing and different types of home decor, maybe even coffee mugs or serving platters, those types of items. So if you don't know what this is, you can now Google harlequin pattern and see what that is so that you can use the correct word. And if you have any items with this pattern or design, you can now go into those items and revise the title and add the word harlequin if you didn't know it before. And just a side note, dog people will know that harlequin can also be a color pattern on Great Danes and maybe some other breeds. It's just a splotchy gray and black coloring on a white coat. So that's another use of the word. But bottom line, Harlequin is not checkerboard. It is elongated diamond shapes, usually in brightly colored tones, but can also just be black and white. So take a look at Google Images real quick if you didn't know that word. Okay, and one more thing before we wrap up episode 15 is in looking at my podcast stats, the pandemic aftershocks format is the most popular. So I have 2 of those. One was part 1, talking about what's selling on eBay in 2021. And then part 2 was all about what clothing to sell. So I do have another one of those in the works right now that is coming. And then also at the top of my most viewed stats is all about the most unusual and interesting things I have sold in my 18-year career on eBay. So more of those are coming. And I really appreciate your feedback on this podcast. You can email me at suzanne@suzanneawells.com or find me on YouTube or Facebook. I really do want to hear from you about what you like, what you don't like, constructive criticism, because this podcast is for you, the smaller at-home reseller. And I want to cover the topics that are important to you that you want to hear about. And I love doing research and figuring these things out so I can then tell my audience what I learn, because not everybody likes doing research and not everybody has time to do research. So I want this podcast to have value, also a little bit of entertainment, but mostly value in helping you make more money on eBay. So thanks so much for sticking with me to the end. This is Suzanne A. Wells teaching you how to do eBay the right way. Be sure to follow me as new episodes are added every week. I used to say every Tuesday, but life happens and it might not be Tuesday, but definitely every week. So be nice to each other, make sure you're living the life you want, and have a profitable and productive and fun day on eBay. Talk to you next week. Bye.